Today we're going to talk about the promotion process for 2 captains and 1 assistant chief as part of your reorganization. Maybe you can just tell me, you formed 2 panels, and is that, maybe you can just tell me about that a little bit.
Sure. Well, when I first got here, one of the very common themes from the department was the promotional process and the need to change the process. And the largest theme was that the process was insular. It was internal, and basically if you weren't someone's friend or associate, you wouldn't get nominated for promotion. Which is not uncommon in law enforcement agencies. I have always run an open process everywhere I've worked in terms of bringing in not only subject matter experts, but other people who are involved in the community or the department or the city. So just like I have done in the past, and really in response also to the internal concerns, I formed a couple of different panels. So all of the applicants went through both panels. I wouldn't necessarily say there was just one panel for one position. I mean, everyone had an opportunity to apply for all positions in a sense. So those 2 panels were aggregate. And so the first panel consisted of myself and HR were in all of the panels. We had another police chief. We had a assistant city administrator. We had another city employee and a community member. And community members are key from the perspective of that's the other half of our equation. And I think most especially when we're talking about executive level leadership positions, my expectation for my executive team is that we are working with every group in the city that's willing to work with us, not just the ones that like us. And that really is a leadership challenge. And we've had some issues here in Fargo that we most certainly need to get past and start resolving and create better relationships. So, I think the general public is very supportive of the department, but we've got other groups that we need to make sure we're attempting to address. So, so from that perspective, that's panel 1. The second panel, we also had I think the fire chief was in there on both of the panels. So, in the second group, we didn't have a community member or the city employee. I brought in 2 other law enforcement professionals with over 30 years of experience who I was either knew from association or had worked with previously in my career, because I also trust their judgment and guidance and their ability to objectively assess candidates. I know they know what I'm looking for also in terms of leadership. So those panels did their work, and I think they did their work very astutely. They were attentive to what was going on, the questions, the responses, and then following the HR process, rated accordingly. There was also a written essay that was that the candidates presented, as well as an oral presentation during one of the panels. So all of those things kind of aggregate up. And then you look at your candidate pool, and as the chief, I'm obviously making the decision about who's going to fill which position or which role.
So follow their recommendation, is that correct?
Well, actually, my final decision did follow their recommendations, but I would have made it anyway. I think after seeing everything, I would concur with the people, and it's all about making sure that you have the right people in the right roles. Our group, that pool, every one of those candidates was very good. I mean, for me, that's actually positive. It's kind of exciting to have tough decisions to make about who's going to fill certain roles. We're not always in that position. So from that perspective, I was pleased with that. And then I'm pleased with the way that it turned out. I think it's going to be extremely beneficial for the department. We've got our new executive team as a group is really going to be able to take charge now and lead us forward on a lot of long-term things that we hadn't been able to get off the ground yet. And so it's the beginning of filling a lot of spots. And so we'll have processes for sergeant and lieutenant that will be forthcoming as well to fill those vacancies that are created by the promotions. We also had some retirements to fill. So it's kind of a domino effect across the organization. Again, allows future new leaders to step up and take those new roles.
Can you tell me how many people were interviewed?
The pool was 5 people. Yeah.
5 in each? Or,
Oh, you mean in the interview panel?
yeah. No, I have a list of the panels.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So
How many candidates?
Yeah.
5 total. So
for
all 5 went through both panels.
okay. For the captain and the assistant.
Yes.
Okay.
So all 5 went through both panels.
Okay.
That was a complete process.
And did you narrow it down from a longer list?
No. No, those were the only applicants.
Okay.
And I think, frankly, those are probably the only applicants that could apply based on the requirements. They had to have so many years at a rank of lieutenant or higher. So there's, I think, only 2 lieutenants that didn't apply, but they wouldn't have had enough time to apply. So that was, in essence, always going to be our candidate pool.
Well, I see interim captain
Helmick.
I referred to him several times in print, so he's obviously one of the candidates. But, so.
Right. So we'll announce all of this tomorrow. Okay. I know you're chomping at the bit, but you know, we need to message internally with our department people. I think we owe them the heads up that here's the decisions, and then tomorrow morning this will be public, and we'll touch base, and all that information will be available.
Okay. All right. What time are you thinking about doing it tomorrow?
Sometime afternoon.
Sometime afternoon. Okay. So.
Good.
All right. Yeah, because our city.
Come in at 2, so.
Right. So did you tell them about the video that's coming out, or no?
No.
Okay. So our city communications people have put together a video with these people, with their new folks, basically. So that will roll out. That will be the public release, essentially, and all that information will be out.
Okay. So you're gonna have that on Facebook, or?
There will be a press release, and the video will be on Facebook, yes.
Okay. Will it be on the city website too?
City website also, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, would you have photos, JPEG that we could use?
Yes, those will be included.
Oh, good.
Those will be
Okay.
included, okay.
Yeah, and the promotion ceremony, Barry, will be July 12th
Okay.
at 11 a.m.
Okay.
at City Council chambers. So then it would be a great opportunity too, if anyone wants to, attend a ceremony, interview any of the new promotees.
Okay. All right. So, I guess you kind of answered one of my questions was, how was this handled before in the department? But it was kind of an insular, like you said.
Right.
So.
Yeah, in fact, we researched all over, and we couldn't even find any kind of record as to how it was done or who was on the panel, and either in HR or within the department. So all I have really is the feedback from a large amount of personnel telling me, hey, the promotional process needs to change.
I know you talked to a lot of officers,
Mhm.
and that was one of their concerns.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. How many officers did you talk to, by the way, after you started?
Oh, I'm almost, I'm about,
You wanted to talk to almost all of them.
well, I'm still working on finishing. I've got about 80 out of 200 done, so you can do the math on that, I guess. In addition to everything else, yeah, so
I know you got.
it's been busy, right? But, it's an ongoing, we kind of sprinkle them in as I can fit people in. I try and get them on their shifts. So, I'm coming in at night to make sure that I can talk to evening and night officers. I'm not going to have them come in during their sleep time to do that. So, so to the extent one person can get that accomplished, I think we're doing pretty good. And we've also had large meetings. We set up a shift representative team. So I've been meeting with them for the past several months. So, in fact, we have another meeting coming up shortly, but that group is representative of the whole department, sworn in civilian. I believe we started meeting in March or April. So we have monthly meetings, and that's an opportunity for line staff at all levels to bring up any issues or concerns or have discussions about new policies, things of that nature. So in addition to the one-on-ones, we've got these different groups, and I also meet with the sergeants and lieutenants on a monthly basis, and the command staff, or the executive staff rather, on a weekly basis. So we have regular iterations of face-to-face communication, and those shift reps are the ones that then go back to their respective shifts or locations and can kind of pass the information along or bring back questions from the group.
So one of the letters we received was about Faith Dixon, and she had an encounter with the Moorhead police. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Sure, yeah, I am.
But so they didn't think she was appropriate to be on there.
Well, I think everyone can have their opinion about that. But I think for us, we need to focus on what's happening here in Fargo and what we can do to improve our community relations and our community safety. Certainly that traffic stop had a lot of issues. I don't think anyone would dispute that. But what probably people don't know is since that traffic stop, we actually hosted a community conversation on traffic stops and went over all the legal parameters. One of the attendees was Faith, who actually walked away with some knowledge that she didn't have. In fact, even commented about not knowing that she should pull to the right. So, I mean, I think while that whole situation was rather chaotic, a lot of times when I talk about the community not understanding and then everyone jumps to a conclusion, a lot of things people just don't know. You would think they may know, but they don't know, or they've forgotten, or they've gotten the wrong information because sometimes they get guidance from social media. Someone will say, hey, all you got to do is hold your ID up to the window and that's all you have to do. That's wrong. The cops can't tell you to get out of the car. That's wrong. And so in our community conversation, we walk through those things and we provide the legal citations for what we're talking about. And everything's premised on the fact that the cops handle the contact respectfully as well. Right? So, I mean, we can't create a problem, but certainly we have authorities or there's things we can do that sometimes people don't either believe or recognize. So part of that educational piece is how we fix that relationship. So something like that shouldn't happen in the future. I mean, that's kind of one of our goals, is to work on that.
And without saying it, I suppose she's a leader in BLM and all the protests.
She's
that's the way that you're trying to be more inclusive.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, she's a lead. She is a representative of a piece of this community. I don't think that we can just discard every piece of the community that maybe we've had previous conflict with, or because of other things that have happened, don't personally like. We have to have we have a responsibility to the public here to do that. I mean, it's different if we have a group that just doesn't even want to sit down and talk with us and is not collaborative. We can't fix that problem. But if we have persons or groups that want to work with us, I think how do you turn away from that? And I think from a leadership challenge and perspective, putting her in that position, she got a lot out of it because she also sees, just like other people that were there, what the process is when we're selecting our leaders. It's not a backdoor, smoke-filled room decision, and I'm not putting someone who's a close friend or buddy or ally in a position just because of that. We're putting people in these positions because of their character and competence. We've assessed them very thoroughly, and to have someone from the community be a part of that and see that as well, I think that's pretty important.
I believe she was the only, besides the fire chief though, and Redlinger, she was probably the only community member, if I recall.
Well, we had someone from public health.
Oh.
We had a person from public health. Mm-hmm. And so we'll continue to do, and I use different community members on different panels, so we'll continue to do that as we work through a lot of our processes, from hiring new cops to promotions.
Okay, well that's a good explanation of it, I think.
Well, I'm always happy to explain it, Barry, but sometimes people don't ask, they jump to conclusions.
Right.
So.
That's for sure. So, all right. As far as bringing in the outside people, there are people from Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
They're just, like you said, you had respect for them. And you
Yeah.
thought they'd be more objective.
Absolutely. Yeah, and they had some great comments. I mean, I know who they are. I know we have similar philosophies on leadership, and so when they're picking for me, it's like they're picking for themselves too. They have that same perspective, and that's again a very common practice, is to bring in professionals who aren't necessarily from this area, because even to get another chief in this immediate area, it's hard for them not to already have some kind of relationship with the people they're evaluating. So while we have some folks locally, you got to have somebody from outside as well, just to give you that perspective.
Okay, great. All right.
Okay?
Well, I was telling